Okay, today we are going to learn about the area formulas for several different shapes. Now before I start, let me explain how this video is going to go. We are going to be learning about these area formulas throughout several days, okay? But I wanted to give them all to you in one video so that we wouldn't have to be watching a bunch of short little videos. So this one video is going to be good for several days. So if you don't quite understand a couple of the later formulas right away, that's okay. We're going to get to them in class. I just want to make sure that you have them down and you have an example with them so you can begin to start thinking about them. So we will begin. The first one we're going to start with is the rectangle. Now you should know how to find the perimeter and the area of a rectangle already, but just in case, we'll go over it. And we're going to be finding the perimeter of all these shapes and the area. So it's kind of a review of perimeter and then introducing area. So perimeter. Perimeter can be thought of as 2 times 1 length plus 1 width. Because if you have your rectangle here, well, you know that you're going to be adding 2 of these widths together and 2 of these lengths together. Well, you could instead add 1 width and 1 length and then multiply that by 2, which is what this formula does here. As you can see, you can also apply the distributive property, multiply that 2 into both the length and the width, and it comes out to be 2 lengths plus 2 widths, which is probably the formula you're more used to. So perimeter, again, just add up all the sides. Okay? Now area, it's length times width. Remember, when you have 2 letters written right next to each other, that means they're being multiplied. So we will do our first example here. We have the length is 8 and the width is 3. So perimeter, we're going to use this formula here. 2 times our length is 8 plus our width is 3. So that's 2 times 11, which is 22. So our perimeter for this rectangle is 22. Now we're going to find the area. Area is length times width. So we have 8 times 3, and that's going to be 24. Okay? 24. So our perimeter is 22, area is 24. Now we're going to move on to the square. With the square, the perimeter is a little bit different because what do we know about squares? They have 4 sides and they're all the same. So instead of saying we're adding 2 lengths and 2 widths together, it's 4 times the length of one side. 4 times S, where S is your side length. So your perimeter, just 4 times S. And then your area, again, we know that squares have equal sides and they are actually rectangles, but we look at their area formula a little bit differently. So you have S squared because the length is the same as the width. So side times side, that's side squared. So side squared, that's side times side. That comes from that length times width up there with the rectangle. And as you are solving area problems, perimeter problems, I need for you to be writing the formula down first and then plugging in the pieces that you know. So every time you start a problem, you write the formula that you're using at the top and then go through and plug in all your information. So perimeter. Perimeter, we're going to use 4S. Well, we know that S is 5. So that's 4 times 5. Our perimeter is therefore 20. So that's our perimeter. Now we have our area. We're going to start off with our formula, S squared. A equals S squared. And we know that S is 5, so it's 5 squared, which means 5 times 5, which is 25. So our area is 25. Perimeter, 4 times the side length, 4 times 5 is 20. Area, S squared, 5 squared, gives us 25. So that's the rectangle and the square. Those should be pretty much review, not too difficult. Now we're going to look at the formula for a parallelogram. A parallelogram is similar to a rectangle, but it's different at the same time. If you look here, you see how the parallelogram has two slanted sides? They're not straight up and down like the rectangle is. So this is why we need a different formula for a parallelogram. We're not just going to take the 8 and multiply it by the 10, because think about it. When you go to the doctor and you get measured for your height, do you stand leaning against the wall? No. How do you stand? Straight up and down. So for a parallelogram, its height is the measurement that's straight up and down, not this slanted one. So the height always makes a right angle with what is called the base. And parallelograms have two bases here. They run parallel to each other. That's why it's called a parallelogram. So your height is always perpendicular, making a right angle to your base. And our formula is the area is equal to the base times the height. Base times height. So you identify from your drawing what the base is. And here our base is 10. And our height, the line that's making the right angle, 90 degrees to the base, is 7. So our height is 7. So now we're set up to do our area. And it's just base times height. So we'll go down and we'll do area first. Area equals base times height. Now we plug in. Base is 10 times our height, which is 7. 10 times 7 is 70. So our area is 70 square units. We don't know the units because they don't tell us. They just put numbers here. Now we'll go back to perimeter. Perimeter is just taking all the sides and adding them up. Now this is when you use the slanted side, because we want to know the perimeter around the outside here, because perimeter means outside measure. So we have 10 plus 8 plus 10 plus another 8. Okay, and parallelograms, their two bases are equal and the two slanted sides are equal. So we know that we have two 10s and two 8s. So 10 plus 8 is 18, plus 10 plus 8, that's 18, and 18 plus 18 is 36. So we have our perimeter, where we just added all the sides, comes to 36. Area is base times the height, and remember your height is not slanted, it's straight up and down. Area, 10 times 7, 70. So parallelogram is pretty straightforward. Only thing you have to worry about is identifying the correct height. Okay, and always remember it's straight up and down. Now we'll move on to our next two shapes. And again, we're starting with all these shapes so we have all of it together, but we're going to be going through them in class. So now we're going to move on to triangle. Okay, for the triangle, our area formula is 1/2 times the base times the height. So here you're going to follow your order of operations. You see these parentheses? You're going to take the base and the height and multiply those together first, and then you're going to multiply that product by 1/2. Okay? And again, perimeter, just the outside measure. And the same thing here with our height. Okay, your height is not slanted. It is always at a right angle to the base. So your base is the bottom here, and your height is perpendicular to it. So wherever you see that right angle, the two measurements that meet, you know that's your base and your height. Because sometimes they could kind of rotate the triangle and it's not always going to be on the bottom. So you're really looking for where that right angle is drawn for you so you know what the base and the height are. So we'll start here with our perimeter. The perimeter is just adding up all three sides. So 10 plus 10 plus 10. 10 plus 10 plus 10. Perimeter is 30. So there we go. That was easy. Now we'll move on to our area. Remember, it's 1/2 times the base times the height. So we take our base, which is right here, 10. So we'll write down A equals 1/2 base times height. And we will start to plug in. We know our base is 10. And our height from this drawing is labeled as 6. So our base is 10, height is 6. We'll plug in 1/2 times base is 10 times our height, which is 6. So it looks like this. 1/2 times 10 times 6. Now following order of operations, we're going to do what's inside here first. So it's 1/2 times 10 times 6 is 60. And 1/2 times 60 is going to be 30. So our area of this triangle is 30. And we're actually going to get to, in class, a proof where we're going to see that this is actually true, and you don't have to take my word for it. So we took our perimeter, added up the 3 sides, and we found our area by taking the base and the height, multiplying those together, and then multiplying it by 1/2, and we got out 30. So that's the triangle. Now our last formula we're going to do is the trapezoid. Okay, the trapezoid, this is the weirdest one, I would say, but it's not complicated, as long as you follow your order of operations. All right, the area of a trapezoid is 1/2 times base 1 plus base 2 times the height. Okay, what is this base 1 and this base 2? So look here, this is our trapezoid. Your bases are the 2 sides that run parallel to each other. So we have one base is 8 and the second base is 6. Okay, and traditionally you call the bottom one base 1 and the top one base 2. It doesn't really matter because, again, you add them, doesn't matter the order you're adding them in. So we got base 1 and base 2 here. Your height, again, is not slanted. It is straight up and down when you're looking at your bases. So you look here, base 1, base 2. Which one of these measurements, the 5 or the 7, is straight up and down compared to them? Well, the 5. And again, it's marked here with this right angle. If they give you a right angle, they've identified your height for you. You're good. 7, the only reason why you will be using the 7 is to calculate the perimeter. And that's it. So we're going to go on ahead. We'll start with the perimeter because that's easy. Perimeter, you're just adding up the 4 sides. So we have 5 plus 6 plus 7 plus 8. All right. 5 and 6, that's 11. Plus 7 and 8, that's 15. And 11 and 15, 5 and 1 is 6, 1 and 1 is 2. So it is 26. Our perimeter is 26. And again, you just add up those 4 sides. Now your area. Your area, we're going to use our formula. 1/2 times B1 plus B2 times H. First thing we're going to do, we're going to plug in our numbers here. So we have 1/2 times, and we're going to identify B1 is going to be 8. B2 is 6. And our height, again, your height is not slanted, so it's the one that's straight up and down. Our height is 5. So we'll plug in here. B1 is 8 plus B2 is 6. And then we're going to multiply it by the height, which is 5. Now we're going to follow the order of operations. We start with the parentheses. So it becomes 1/2 times, and 8 plus 6, that's 14, times 5. Now we're still following order of operations, and this is all multiplication. So we're going to go from left to the right. So we have 1/2 times 14. Well, that's 7. And we're still multiplying by 5, because the 1/2 times 14, that gave us 7. And now we're going to multiply by 5. 7 times 5, 35. So we'll kind of go over that again here. We look through, we got our formula. And these are all on your formula chart, by the way. But you have to know how to use them. So 1/2 times base 1 plus base 2 times the height. We plugged in here. We saw that base 1 is 8, base 2 was 6, and our height, straight up and down, was 5. So we have 1/2 times 8 plus 6 times 5. And we go through. We did our parentheses first. 8 plus 6 gave us 14. So we still have the 1/2 times 14 times 5. We're following order of operations. We're starting on the left. We did 1/2 times 14. That's 14 divided by 2. 14 divided by 2 is 7. We still have the multiplying by 5. 7 times 5 is 35. So that's how we end up at our final answer. Okay, make sure that you've gone through, written down all these examples, all the formulas, looked over your formula chart and seen how they are written there, and kind of start making yourself familiar with it. The ones that you're going to have to first be able to use are the rectangle and the square. Then we're going to move on to our other shapes. And as I said, we will be doing proofs in class to see where they come from. So as long as you got all your notes written down, you'll be good to go. See you in class.